So
The institutions are calling, and Pith is the only one with the answer. You either die a hero, or live long enough to see yourself become B2B SaaS.
B2B.
Chop, how are we doing today?
Glorious morning, Pepito. I'm doing fantastically well. How are you doing?
Doing good. Beautiful weather. Kind of enjoying the last bit of summer. I'd say that's probably my last week of real summer weather here in France. So we'll see and enjoy it a bit. But no, doing well overall. And ready for another Beyond the Price.
Oh yeah, I love it. I see somebody dropped first comment of the stream. Somebody drops a contract address.
Nice.
Really well. That's a first. I'm not even going to bother looking that up.
Are we supposed to hate this, or I don't know? Instructions unclear. Instructions unclear. But yes, excited to have Tristan from Bullet on today. If you're on here early on watching, don't hesitate to drop a comment, repost. The more people, the merrier, the more fun we'll have today. Questions, drop them in the chat as well. This side of things, any news, community things that you want to kick off with, Chop, or?
Yeah, next week we're going to start a bit of a content-based stream. So as part of our second 6 months of the community council, we have spun up an artists hub. We have a different name for it within the community, but it's an artists hub where we're making all sorts of different content with a whole bunch of very engaged, clever, talented Pythians. And from next week, I'm going to be streaming, whether or not it's from my personal account or perhaps from the Pythonians account, I'm not sure, but we'll be streaming some of that content that we're making on Twitter and in the Discord, just as a bit of fun, but also to sort of help people whet their appetites and dip their feet in and see what we're doing and get a better idea of how to make that content, what we do to make the content, where we find all of these bits and pieces of content, and what the sort of process is. So for anybody that doesn't already know, we've got I think 3 or 4 accounts on TikTok that have been posting content pretty consistently 2 or 3 times a week at least, and then a bunch of other Pythians on Twitter who are doing amazing stuff. They're also helping out you, Pepito, on your content, and a couple of other people doing stuff. So we're going to try and do more of that. We do quite a bit of building in public, but that's another thing we're going to ramp up, and all of those people are being very well looked after by the community council for their efforts, because not only is it genuine and great, but it's really fun, unique stuff that we're doing. So that's something that's coming up, and there's a bunch of other things on bullish on artism. That's a good way to say it, Jitalik. I like that, artism. Yeah, so we've got that's one of the main things happening at the moment within the community, which I'm very bullish on. But there's a whole host of other things going on. As always, it's impossible to keep up in the Discord. I've been away. I've barely been able to dip my toes in the past 2 weeks because of conferences and everything. And I'm not even close to having back-read or caught up with everything happening in the Discord. So I've got a long week or so ahead of me.
It's a society of its own now. So
yeah, it really truly is.
No, but very cool. Jump in the Discord. Check out from the Pith main account so you don't get any scammers trying to to steal your money, but Discord links and everything on all the official channels. But yeah, jump in there, lots of fun. And I've been seeing some of that TikTok content, which is it's pretty funny, and I try to learn myself how to edit some of those videos now a bit more. So it's a great, that's I have to say, challenge and skill to develop. Amazing. But I see we have Tristan in the back. I'm gonna have him jump on so we can get started. Sir, glorious morning.
JM guys, how we doing?
Very well, Tristan. I love the shirt, dude. Is that a conference shirt? Did you pick that up somewhere in a conference?
Thank
Or is
you.
that a
Yeah, it is. It was from the Hyper Collective meetup in Korea. I just swung by
love
just to see how the vibes were, so it was good. Yeah.
That's cool. That's actually.
Did you
Sorry, Pierre. Go for it, man.
did you go to both, Tristan, Korea and Token?
Yeah, I did. Back to back, 2 conferences, a bit too much, but I took it much more chill this time. I feel like conferences usually just very full on. This time, like I have way too much work to do, so just a few select meetings. Kind of didn't go to too many events. Just took it a lot more chill. Tried to get my sleep in. I think is like the most important thing, to not get sick, because that puts you out for like a good few days. There's always the well-known conference plague, which I've definitely like experienced back in the day from like the many like Solana and FTX events of 2021 and 2022. So I think we're past that.
Nice. I made the mistake of, because I did Korea and Singapore as well, just I made the mistake of doing an event basically every day of that 2-week stretch, which
takes a toll on you.
Terrible idea. Oh man, unbelievable. What was your did you have any highlights from the trip?
I think in particular, I think it was just good. Like the sentiment around, I think DeFi and crypto generally just seems like very good right now. I think people are really like excited. I think it was just cool going to KBW and like even just like walking into the actual like I did my panel and then I went and walked around the actual conference and I was like, a lot of crypto events, I think it's just like you see the same faces, same kinds of people, and like everyone's just chatting to each other. But this one was cool. It's just like bunch of kind of people coming in, like actual like local Korean people going and like lining up at all these booths, and I'm like, damn, retail is here. It feels kind of good. There's like a lot of interest and people really want to get into crypto. So I thought it was really cool to see that. And yeah, we definitely had a lot of good meetings. I think people are very bullish on perps right now. It's like perps DEX season. So I think those have been like really productive. What else? Singapore is always good. I mean, it's kind of like home ground for me. So we ran an event that was really nice. We got like a good turn up to that. A bunch of people came by. I saw Ed actually there from the team, had like a good chat with him. So I haven't seen him in a while. So yeah, overall 2 very good weeks, but I am pretty glad to be not talking to people right now and going back to work and like doing some more coding. So it's good to lock in a bit now.
Yeah, I totally echo those sentiments. I have to come home and just sit in a nice dark box for a couple of days to detox and de-stress for a little bit.
I'm not an extrovert, so yeah.
No. Wearing a mask for 2 weeks is exhausting. Just to kick us off, Tristan, would you mind giving the people who don't know you, which I'm sure is a couple, that you're a well-known entity, but give us a bit of an intro to yourself and your journey in crypto up to this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're building Bullet essentially. It's like a high-performance layer 2 rollup for Solana. We're really trying to solve the kind of perps trading problem on Solana. We haven't seen any very, very compelling products there. And I think seeing the perps volumes go through the roof and the demand for central limit order books, that's something that we've been building for the last couple of years and something that we have a lot of expertise and willingness to do. So we're pretty close to like launching essentially. We've been on testnet for a little bit of time and just like looking to get out there and start growing as rapidly as possible. I think the technical solution that we have is pretty interesting and pretty compelling. We can execute people's trades in literally a millisecond, which is kind of unheard of for blockchains. And we've done a lot of pretty interesting, nerdy stuff under the hood to enable that. We also have like pretty good congestion resistance, pretty good throughput and scalability, and just really like focusing on trading use cases. And I'm making DeFi kind of like home venue, I guess, for a lot of this perps trading volume, whereas it's been like very much on the CeFi side, I think dominated for the last couple of years. And yeah, just trying to like grow the pie there as much as possible. The background was, we've been building the Solana ecosystem for like quite a long time. We were one of the very early projects, I think. We came through the second Solana hackathon back when it was called Data Markets. We were actually, I think, probably fifth customer like within the first 5 that you guys integrated, like way back in the day when it was like the fully on-chain program and you had all the price bands and all this other stuff. I remember that was like very, very long time ago, but that was kind of cool. So we've been in the trenches with Pyth for like over 4 years at this point. And been like a big Pyth customer over those years. It's been kind of like the bedrock for all our kind of Oracle infrastructure. And yeah, like I got into crypto in 2017, was mostly just kind of like trading on the side, more full time, I guess, end of 2021, I think was when I got in and was lucky enough to meet Anatoly from Solana and just like really see what was possible with Solana and high performance blockchain environments. And then, yeah, we've kind of built through the last 4 years, which have been a real roller coaster, as you guys probably know, going through Solana and like the last bull market, which was like absolutely insane. Solana back at like $8 where everyone kind of like abandoned it. And we were like the 75 devs that were left, and then kind of like building through that now on the other side where things are starting to kick off again. And we're back in what feels like a pretty insane bull cycle. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, and it's good to be working with the Pyth guys obviously throughout that whole time.
Love it. What was your sort of introduction to crypto like, Tristan? So you've weathered the storm of 2 pretty turbulent cycles so far, but how did you find crypto? How did you get into the space?
Yeah, I think it was back in 2017. I think I was still in university, still doing my degree. I was like doing like robotics and computer science, so like pretty nerdy stuff. And then kind of didn't really have too much of an inclination towards software engineering. I was like a hardware guy. I always thought that was like really cool. And then yeah, I started taking on like more CS units, and I was like, oh, this is like pretty interesting actually. What's what you can do with software. And then just randomly, as you do when you're still like a uni student and you're broke, like you see crypto ads and stuff like that, and you're like, okay, what is this? I should take a look into this. And I was just like casually looking at it, and I think there was literally like a Facebook group or something or other that I joined, and yeah, someone who I just had like a lot of mutual friends with from school just kind of like reached out to me. He's like, yeah, we kind of like know all the same people. He was going to like a different university to me, and then he just kind of reached out. We just like touched base, and he was kind of more like a finance guy. I was more like the tech guy, and we just ended up doing a bunch of like research, investing, and like random stuff. Just like very small size, obviously, but like finding all these like random altcoins and shit coins back in 2017, trading them on like Bittrex and Bitfinex, and I think Binance had really only just like come about like soon after that. I remember buying BNB at like $1 or something or other. Was like insane to think that it's over $1,000 now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just feels like a lifetime ago. There were so many like just ancient projects there that just like did not survive. Even like I think some of the platforms like Bittrex like shut down. So it's kind of crazy like the churn over the years and like how things have changed. But yeah, I remember just like PA investing a bunch of stuff. That was like also when I started learning programming properly. So just like learning Python, writing some scripts connecting to like exchanges like Binance, and just like writing crappy little trading bots to like do some strategy or something like that. I can't remember what exactly I was doing, but it was something like that which got me interested. And then yeah, I think 2018 everything went like boom and bust pretty quickly. I was like, oh wow, I made like a few $1,000s, which is like life-changing money when you're a broke uni student. And then it all just kind of like nuked after that. And then I was just like, oh man, just like all the gains that I had gone, and back I like round tripped the whole thing. So that was like a good experience. And then I decided to get a real job, like finish my degree, and I worked in like AI research for a couple of years. Then moved to the Bay Area for a little bit, did like machine learning, data science stuff, like a lot of like recommendation models, like more traditional like analytics, data science, machine learning stuff, which is pretty cool. And that was something I did for like 4 years at least, which was pretty fun. And then I kind of went against the grain, did all this AI research, and then moved to crypto just because I think working in a big company, I wanted to, in my 20s at least, take a bit more of a bet on like doing a startup, doing something a bit more risky. I think working in a big company, it's like great, you get the nice stable paycheck, but everything's shipped like once a quarter. Things move kind of like slowly. You're not able to like, and then I felt like if I were to get older, I wouldn't have the opportunity to do a startup again. So I was just like, bet it all on the line as you do with crypto. And crypto seemed like a really good way to do it because, just like getting off the ground, I was quite amazed with like Uniswap is like 70 lines of Solidity code, I think their main contract. And that thing was processing like over $1 billion of spot trading volume a day. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. This dude built this, like the math is like honestly like fairly straightforward, and this thing just works and it's just deployed and it's just doing a bunch of cool stuff. So I was just like very bored of my tech job at that point, and it was like Christmas, and instead of hanging out with my family, I was just like locked in my room, just like learning Solidity, and just like I was like, can I learn this thing in like under a week and just start like writing some smart contracts, and like all this like DeFi smart contract stuff was completely new to me because I had kind of got into crypto in ICO season, got nuked, and then I missed out on DeFi summer, which I think was like 2019 sort of times, and then started hearing all this like murmur about smart contracts, started listening to a bunch of like Vitalik podcasts again. And I was like, this is pretty cool. It's like programmable money Legos was like the big dream there. And people were building cool stuff on Ethereum. So I started playing around with Uniswap. And then I was like, oh my God, I got to pay $20 for gas fees just to do a swap. Like, this is insane. There's no way like this is going to be like, I'm way too price sensitive for this. And then, played around with Ethereum for a little bit of time, and then just came across Solana literally when it was in the very early days. Like, there were no docs really. There was like no like real way. There was like one single doc on like how to write a program on Solana that like some absolute Chad from like the development community had written and gone through the pain of like learning Rust and figuring out this whole thing. And so we were just kind of like poring over that for like the better part of a week and just figuring out like how can we write our own program. And it was just pretty cool because Solana advertised 50K TPS and like really cheap fees. And then, I was just kind of drawn to that. I was like, I kind of want to learn Rust because I've been like a career like juggling between Python and C++. And I think they both have their like pros and cons. And then Rust is like what all these nerds are basically saying is like very fast performant language with like type safety and a bunch of other kind of like memory safety that you wouldn't get with C++. So I was like, this seems kind of better than Solidity, which no offense was kind of like this weird bastard child of like JavaScript and Python or something or other with like weird like constraints and then like memory model. And so it was kind of cool. And we were just like, whatever, let's enroll in this hackathon. Let's see how it goes. I just slept on my like co-founder's couch for a couple of weeks, like 3 weeks, just like grinding it out, just like wake up in the morning, write code, eat dinner, go to sleep, kind of do nothing like that for 3 weeks. And we wrote this like really bare bones options exchange. That's what we submitted to the hackathon. Kind of not expecting crazy things, to be honest, but then the judges seemed to really like it, and they were like, "Hey, this is pretty cool. You guys built an entire exchange in 3 weeks. Like, that's it's pretty dedicated." And that was kind of a fun experience. Like, I wouldn't want to do that forever, like working basically day and night, but it was like that good hustle, I guess, to get something over the line, and it was pretty fun. And then just like being able to raise some seed capital, like hire into the team, just hire a bunch of like, family and friends, do the PIP integration. We just kind of like got off the ground pretty quickly. And within like a few months, it's like real exchange was coming together, and then the rest is history pretty much.
So the first iteration of Bullet was what you submitted to that hackathon, was it? It's basically been a continuous line.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's right. There's been like a few iterations. So we started as an options exchange, did that for like 2 years, but then found it was like really hard to scale options in terms of the liquidity needed to do that on chain, as well as like, I don't think users really fully grokked how to trade it. There's some like very sophisticated people with like a quant finance degree who love trading this stuff because it's much more expressive than perps, to be honest. There's a lot of advantage to trading it, but you really need somewhat of a STEM degree to understand it. You have all these like first and second derivatives. You got to think about like all these different variables and parameters and implied volatilities. And there was just like a lot to it to kind of understand how they're priced. And it was like pretty hard to trade. You can imagine buying this thing and actually over time it like loses value. So you have to think about the time aspect of it as well as the price. There's just like a lot of dimensions. I won't get into it. But I think for the average user that was just used to like yield farming on Ethereum, where it's like, put some money in Aave, put some money in, a Yearn Vault or something or other, and it just like prints me more money at the end of the day in some like random token, some like food token. People just like, hard to get their head around. But then, we kind of, I think when all the FTX meltdown stuff happened, we'd already kind of built the perps branch of the business out, and that had just like launched at Breakpoint in 2022. And then we started actually doing like a good amount of volume in like that first week. People were like really excited to have like a new perps kind of competitor in there, and we were doing quite well. We built quite a good platform, and then everything just kind of blew up. And then it was just like depths of the bear market for a good year, where it was just like no users, no liquidity, no volume, and that was like kind of sucked, obviously. But it was a good time to just like reflect on things and just like go back to all our infrastructure and just rewrite it, improve it, take all the learnings that we didn't have time for in the bull market to just like think about it from the ground up. And yeah, that kind of eventually became like pretty decently used perps platform. We learned a lot of stuff last year, I think, when we got quite a big user growth surge and a lot of people using the platform. And then yeah, Bullet is now kind of essentially like what we've pivoted into from the Zeta days, and that is like a complete from the ground rewrite of like everything that we've learned over these 4 years to make it as performant and as scalable as possible.
I think the funny personal story is probably Zeta is my first perp trade ever on Solana. I think
Nice.
Mark got me into Solana. I'd say late 2022 probably. It was like you can do perps where you go long or short, and probably that was my first experience with this drug of perps trading. But so yeah, Zeta first initial, I guess, a stepping stone into Bullet. It feels like, now it's, or I believe it's like you guys are it's like a network extension of Solana or some sort. What do you think are, you were like, okay, it's on Solana mainnet, what I'm trying to build cannot work. Are there, some key understanding of like, this is not performant enough, or what were the things you said we need to build something, I guess, different and outside of the pure Solana realm?
Yeah, it's very much the same journey as you guys went with like the Pyth on-chain program to PythNet. Essentially, you need to own more of that infrastructure stack, and like Solana is like very well built and has like a lot of advantages. That's why we got to where we were, I guess, like up until that point. But I guess our end goal is to compete with centralized exchanges. Like, hopefully in the 5-year future, all these dexes are really rivaling Binance, if not earlier. It's accelerating very quickly at this point. But yeah, we just kind of couldn't figure out how to do that with like the existing architecture that we had. And that's fundamentally because you're writing, or like every single match happens on, an on-chain smart contract. One, the latency that we need, most exchanges, as you guys know, with like high frequency trading, these guys need to trade at like pretty low latencies. And that was like the big value out of Pyth, right? It's like, you're not getting price updates once a minute, like these older oracles, you're getting price updates every second, basically. It was like a big upgrade. They were still like so far off even centralized crypto finance. Like Binance is doing things in a matter of milliseconds. And you look at traditional markets, that's even really slow. They're doing stuff in microseconds. So you're kind of going 10 or 100x faster with every kind of hop that you do. So just like the raw speed stuff, I think was difficult. Like trading on our platform was okay. Like if you were somewhat price insensitive and you didn't mind about getting executed like once every couple of seconds. But yeah, I think if you're a really like serious trader, you did programmatic trading. If you're a market maker and you wanted to provide liquidity, like that time delay, I think made it very hard to be super profitable and to kind of make markets in a very robust way. So that was kind of a blocker. There was also stuff like just generally like congestion, on a general purpose blockchain, we're competing with like thousands of other on-chain programs. As we know, back in the day, like Radium does a new launch, or Pump Fund like bonds a new token. Suddenly there's all these like bots sniping it. You get kind of congestion that can bring down the chain. The chain's been much more stable, I guess, the last 2 years. They brought in these priority fee markets, which were pretty helpful, but they were still fairly non-deterministic, and it was really hard for us to still like work with market makers to get good liquidity on the platform. Like it was a bit hit and miss in terms of the experience, and that seems like something that they're trying to work to address. But our timelines were like, we need a solution, I guess, like ASAP. We're not really willing to wait like 2 years for like core protocol changes to come through. And just generally, I think like with CRM and with what we built, on-chain order books are like feasible and doable, but there is still some kind of concession that you have to make when it comes to centralized systems. And so we decided to figuratively bite the bullet there and to see like, well, what's the trade-off that we're willing to make? Can we get things to be much more performant, but still have them verifiable? And the trade-off that we're making is building this network extension essentially, which is like less geographically decentralized, but still able to be verified by anyone around the world. But you get extreme performance benefits, which I think is like what most users are looking for. And what motivated that, I think, as well, like we'd already been building down this roadmap. We saw most perps exchanges already moving towards their own app chains and custom solutions because they could own a lot more of the infrastructure stack. And just seeing like the people that have gravitated to platforms like Hyperliquid and Aster, I think they're really chasing very good user experience. And I think they're like less willing to trade that off for something that is like, supposedly more decentralized, whatever you kind of term that as. And so, yeah, we're trying to get something that is the best of both worlds. It's not a centralized exchange. Like, you can withdraw your funds anytime. It is basically self-custody. Everything is done on chain on like the ledger. You can check any balances of any account at any time. Everything is also ZK verifiable, which is pretty cool. So every single trade that happens on the platform, that will be aggregated into a ZK proof that will be posted down to Solana. Anyone can check that. Anyone can check that anything malicious is happening or anything that's suspicious, that can always be verified. And anyone who is kind of like executing those transactions or front running or doing things like that essentially can be slashed in terms of their stake. But then, yeah, you get basically same performance as a centralized exchange. Like I said, Binance does their stuff in 5 or 10 milliseconds. We can do it in 1 millisecond with the couple of thousand orders a second that we do now. So hopefully, I'm hoping, and what our big thesis is we can get to the best of both worlds, something that is both performant, but also has like sufficient censorship resistance and transparency.
I mean,
Amazing. Go ahead, Pierre.
no, take it.
I'm curious to know, Tristan, because you're kind of building, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're kind of building adjacent to Solana. Do you see Bullet as being complementary to Solana in some way, or is it sort of not extracting from Solana, but not necessarily adding to it either? I'm curious because there's like this is a pretty emergent narrative where you can't have, or it's argued that you can't really have an all-purpose app chain because of the reasons that you've outlined.
Yep.
You're competing with transactions for all sorts of other things, and perhaps it is better or more viable for projects to launch on an all-purpose app chain, but then eventually spin out and start their own chain that is going to exist separate to it. I'd love to know your take on that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I guess everyone sees it in different ways. But I basically agree with your point that it's like Solana's pretty good for the majority of things, like AMMs, spot trading, coins, NFTs, lending. All these kind of things don't need quite the speed that we need, and they work completely fine. I think like I use all these products, like, I'm a big Camino user, big Jupiter user. All these things are like really, really solid products that I use basically every day. But yeah, perhaps like require a very specialized stack. Maybe that gets solved, over the coming years. But, I think in the shorter term, we wanted a solution that would get out there and kind of start really working and providing that experience to people. I mean, you could see it in this like zero-sum game where it's like, it's either on Solana or it's on the other thing and it's competitive, but I kind of don't see it that way. Like, the options are either you bridge off of Solana and you use Hyperliquid, or we try and build something that is like a solution there that people can use that has like a much faster bridging experience, has all the same kind of Solana wallets and Solana cryptography, SVM, all these other things. So I feel like that's like sufficient trade-off in my eyes. Our point is obviously not to cannibalize Solana. Like, we're trying to grow the pie there, and we're trying to bring more people into perps trading and more people like trading on chain. So yeah, you might argue that we're not paying as many gas fees, I guess, on like the base layers we otherwise would be. But, I kind of see we're trying to fill more demand for block space. We're trying to bring in net new users. We're trying to get people actually trading perps on chain, which wouldn't otherwise be happening and is not happening at the moment, literally. So yeah, that's kind of how I view it.
And how do you view competition between perp dexes at the moment? How do you think that's shaping up? Because it's been the dominant narrative over the past 2 or 3 months, if not longer.
Yeah, it's been hyper competitive. I mean, it's always been competitive. It's like nothing new for us. I guess when we started in 2021, I think there was probably like 10 to 15 perps dexes on Solana. There was just like so many, could like barely count. And that was actually a big reason why we didn't do perps in the first place. I was like, it feels like a crowded space, like not really interested in being, the 15th perps dex that's out there. So like, let's do options where there were like maybe like 2 other guys that we had to compete with. And I would like to say that we like built the best product there. But then, yeah, like the humbling realization was like options was not the biggest addressable market. And, maybe it will be at some point, but like you need to kind of move where interest is. And so that's the bet that we took a couple of years ago to focus on perps. It's a very crypto native product. It leads price discovery in pretty much like all the markets that you see. It's super liquid. Like there's just like a lot of great advantages to it. And I think it's a great product. And we've kind of switched our mindset to like, we know we're going to have to compete with a bajillion people, and we just have to out execute, and we got the team to do it and the experience to do it. So yeah, we've been building for a couple of years. It's not like we just started a couple of months ago and just trying to like catch the hype wave. Like we've been doing this for ages. But yeah, pretty competitive space. There've been a bunch of other like really strong teams. Like Hyperliquid has been the one leading the charge. Prior to them, DYDX, I think. So there's kind of rotations of the leader every couple of years. But the thing I'm kind of excited by is I think we can do very well, and I think we can be a top platform. But even that being said, in centralized exchange land, like Binance is the king, but there are also like a bunch of others. So I think it's like a winner takes most as opposed to like a winner takes all. But our goal is to be the top platform. I think that's always what you got to shoot for. I never want to be number 5. That's not like particularly interesting. So yeah, I think for now our main goal is like to win market share on the Solana side of things. Like that was our goal, is to have a really strong Solana go-to-market focus on that user base. That's where our historical users have been. It's what we know best. And we see there's just like a massive void in terms of like good perps platforms that we needed to fill. We're a Solana native team. We kind of know the audience. We know how to kind of like build around that. And so we're trying to just get to mainnet as soon as possible. There are not that many other teams. I guess there's like a handful of other ones, but they have different models. They're not really doing central limit order book. They're more doing AMM type stuff with GMX type model. They're doing more like RFQ. So everyone's approaching it in like a slightly different way. I think there are like pros and cons of each. So I don't see them as like super direct competitors, but that's something that we at least are trying to get to number 1 on Solana, in the fairly short term, and then hopefully we can set our sights past that towards the bigger picture. I would say probably the more comparable ones to us are obviously Hyperliquid is very much focused on clubs and doing that in a very high performance way, has the most liquidity, the most trading volume. Yeah, I mean, Astra is obviously doing very well, but there's been some controversy around how real their volume is, how real their liquidity is. It's also an off-chain order book, and they don't really have a chain or anything. So I don't know, maybe they put that on chain at some point. Maybe they don't care. That's why I don't really see that as a DEX, truly. No offense to them. And then, yeah, what else? I think Lido is really interesting. Also seems like a very strong team that have been building for a little bit of time. I think I respect them a lot because they are also building this kind of roll-up model, having this kind of single sequencer build and then ZK verify essentially all the blocks. It's like similar mindset to how we're thinking about things. So it's cool to see them getting a bunch of traction, and I've traded on their platform quite a bit, and it's improved a lot in the last couple of months. So it seems like they're a pretty strong competitor, but yeah, there's probably like 20 plus guys out there now. So it's becoming very crowded, very saturated space. But yeah, I think getting out there quickly, getting out there with a really compelling solution, and our thing just hasn't come around overnight. We've put a lot of time and effort into making it fast, making it robust, making the user experience in the front end really snappy. We're going to have a mobile app, which is pretty kick-ass as well, that a lot of people don't do. And then we're also going to have, we have like a really innovative margin engine that's like one of these like professional trader advanced features, which you can margin your perps in the majority of like different major assets. So Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, USDC, USDT, some of the liquid stake derivatives will have supported, in due time. And this, like, I would say most perp platforms, like 80 or 90% don't support this feature, but it's kind of like pretty standard on Bybit, Binance, and a bunch of these other ones. So we're really trying to take all those professional features, the things that people like know and love from, people who are veteran traders, and basically bake that into a DEX. So this isn't some like bare bones copy paste of some like off the shelf matching engine that like settles on chain. Like this thing has been built literally from the ground up to be kind of best in class.
That's awesome. I love it. In terms of user experience, I think you kind of hinted to it before, but it's going to be basically a pretty seamless transition in terms of bridging over to Bullet from Solana. Is that? Can you kind of go into a bit about how that will work and what people can kind of expect if they haven't already played?
Yeah, definitely. Deposits are going to be, you can't test it out right now because it's just testnet and we just like mint you kind of fake tokens to play around with, but like mainnet is coming very soon. And the experience, we've been optimizing that a lot because that's like the main trade-off, right? Like the two things that are not as, or like more difficult to achieve in our model, like we have all this great performance, liquidity, UX benefits, but the things that you're kind of trading off is like composability with the L1 is definitely like a lot harder now. We can do some level of like asynchronous probably at some point, but it's it's kind of like the trade-off that we're willing to make, because perps kind of are their own vertical. You don't see Binance or Hyperliquid necessarily integrating with like a wide number of applications, although it's interesting with Hyper EVM, but that's kind of on their own chain. But back to the point, yeah, the bridging experience, like user friction is so important, right? Like I come from like a tech background building like customer facing products. And if you're going to add these big gates in there for people to get onboarded, like I've bridged to Arbitrum and to Optimism and Base and all this kind of stuff. And I got to sit there twiddling my thumbs, waiting for like 15 minutes for the funds to clear. I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to churn out and like forget about it at this point. The cool thing is because Solana is like a very fast finality chain. Currently finality is like 30 blocks, if I remember correctly, 400 milliseconds. So that's like 12 seconds, I think, roughly, that you'd finalize on Solana. With Alpenglow, I think they get it down to like literally a second, which is pretty nuts. So the quote unquote like bridging experience, I think, is not going to feel like traditional bridging on EVM chains. It's going to be pretty lightning fast. And we have some nice like ways around it to kind of make it feel very seamless. Right now, our bridging takes about 15, 20 seconds. You know, it could be improved, but that's kind of like the V1. And we have a lot of stuff kind of cooking in the background that will get that a lot faster. Solana will naturally get faster. And then we're working with a bunch of guys who do like intense-based bridging as well. Those guys can kind of do pretty neat stuff where I think actually the guys we're talking to, Relay, just integrated Phantom for Phantom perps essentially, which is using Hyperliquid under the hood. And yeah, you can get bridging down to literally a second. So I just don't see that as being like a big problem. Everyone kind of loves to throw up their hand and say like, oh, bridging, it's so terrible and this is going to be such a pain. I'm never going to use your platform because of that. But like bridging, I think this year is not going to look like what bridging was a couple of years ago. It's going to be depositing in like a second. There's going to be good amount of liquidity. I think people are going to be able to go in and out, you know, cross chain like very, very easily and quickly.
Cool. That's very exciting. I like that a lot. I think something that is kind of counterintuitive, but Hyperliquid benefited a lot early on from the friction of that bridging process, and there's a lot of other examples of that being. It's hard to get in, but it makes it also hard to get out at the same time, which is an interesting dynamic. You're not on mainnet yet, Tristan, but sort of, can you give us a bit of a time frame? I know we're getting into dangerous territory there, but what are you feeling at the moment?
Yeah, I don't want to give an exact timeline because I always get flamed for it, and like engineering timelines like can often shift by like a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's very soon. Like we're on the last legs. Audit is done. We're just kind of like just polishing off like the edge bits of like, you know, thinking about like, how could someone exploit this or do something here and there? You know, just like thinking, because we want to be safe when we roll this out, right? Like, yeah, we could YOLO this thing into production, have a bunch of people trade on it, and then have some kind of problems. We don't roll that way. Like, we want to be very sure about what we ship, that it's safe and robust. And so this is us kind of like dotting our I's and crossing our T's when we roll out that everything is like watertight. And there's just like a lot of testing happening behind the scenes. Like largely all the features are built. Like perp exchange is there, spot exchange is there, like the lending and margin system that work in the background. It's all there. It works. It's been working for like a couple of months. The bridging is there, deposits. So yeah, that's all working. So yeah, it's just putting the final touches, you know, making a few like little breaking changes to optimize things and make them a bit better for like the user experience. But I will definitely say it is most certainly this year, and if not like much sooner than that, obviously. The faster we get out, the better. So I am very much whipping all the devs to move very quickly on this. So yeah, I think people will have something in their hands quite soon. We'll be rolling out, you know, like we're already basically at the point of like starting to get early people in to give them like the referral links, and like we're going to do basically a gated rollout. So the people who've been like the Chads supporting us for like the last couple of years, who've been like early and who've been like really in our corner, we want to give those people early access and kind of roll the platform out gradually, get like feedback from them, and then just like widen it out to a bigger user base over time, and do that in like a structured way.
Yeah, awesome. I love to hear it.
On what it's gonna look like on day one mainnet, for a trader, what assets are gonna be able to trade? Type of, you know, leverage. We keep hearing about zero fee perps.
Yep.
and so on. What are the key, the core parameters that you are gonna roll out with mainnet?
Good question. Still like finalizing them, but yeah, largely we want to have something like 20 markets on Go Live. I think that's enough that we can have something compelling that people can trade lots of different stuff. At the same time, I don't want to list like 100 markets off the bat because like getting liquidity is a difficult thing, and if we spread out ourselves too thin, that's obviously not useful for people as well. But we'll have that. I think it's going to be all the majors that we care about, like really focusing on BTC, ETH, Sol, perp markets, because that is what drives like the vast majority of perp trading volume across like most exchanges. But then, yeah, we know like the game in perps is like to be quick to listings, to list the stuff that people want to be trading. So if there are coins that are very hot, we are actively working on like making our listing process like much faster. So we want to list stuff same day, if not like within a couple of hours, and just kind of keep that rotation going well. Like I said, multiple forms of collateral, all the major stuff that people want to see. Probably have bridging from Solana, and then probably like also Ethereum mainnet and like a few other places, depending on what the demand is there. What else? Leverage wise, we can offer up to 100x leverage. I don't know if I want to do that off the bat, but yeah, we have a nice kind of scaling margin system where we let you take more leverage, but for like smaller trade sizes, which is like helpful because some people have pretty small stack, they're willing to be pretty degenerate. But if we were to offer like leverage on like $1 million position for like 100x, that's like potentially really risky for the platform. So we're not going to be doing that. But yeah, we will basically be like gradually increasing and like rolling back those parameters over time as we become more confident in how everything's working, that like liquidations go down well, that like nothing is happening to the insurance fund, that everything is like safe and kosher, because as we know, crypto prices and different markets can move like 20% overnight. So like these things are pretty volatile and can go pretty nuts. But yeah, I think we'll have something that's pretty competitive. The fees, still kind of having active conversations around that. I don't know if we'll do zero fees necessarily. Like it's an interesting model, but at the same time, like we want to do something that's very competitive, and I think we're going to come out with best fee model or like lowest fees, hopefully on Solana. So we want to be the best trading venue, the lowest slippage, tightest liquidity, obviously the lowest fees, the best execution. If we can hit all these points, check off all the boxes, and just be like undoubtedly the best trading experience on Solana, I think that's where we've succeeded.
And go ahead, Chop, if you have on this.
I'd love to know a little bit more of your thoughts about the zero fees thing, because it's a bit of a contentious topic. A lot of people, including myself, think zero fees is kind of it's a race to the bottom in some sense, and it's very difficult to see from my tiny brained perspective how these platforms intend on actually being sustainable in the long run when they're offering zero fees on certain things. Obviously there's plenty of other ways that they can make money, but I'd just love to know your thoughts on it. It's fun.
Yeah. I think it's a really good growth mechanism, a good way to win market share. Like I think our goal is definitely like to be more aggressive on that stuff in the early days and like capture market share and grow rapidly. Like our goal is not revenue off the bat and like we need to make the exchange needs to make a lot of money. Like we want to reinvest into growth. We want to make sure liquidity is really good. So there's interesting models that centralized exchanges have done over the years, which is like a rebate model. So actually the kind of taker fees are going towards like the maker and subsidizing. So makers can actually provide very, very tight liquidity and kind of beef that up. And they're being essentially like paid for that service. That's a more kind of traditional model with maker rebates. Some stuff that has worked in traditional markets, such as like with Robinhood, is payment for order flow. So, makers are actually willing to come and provide good spreads and good prices, and they kind of like pay for the option to be able to do that. And then you can kind of give retail essentially like zero fees on Robinhood, because the market makers are making money. They're not just getting arbitraged all the time. They're just facing people who just like want to get into like a sold position and not some like high frequency trading bot. Someone's pretty interesting. It seems like that's the route that Lighter is going down. I know Paradex is going towards this like retail price improvement or RPI mechanism that Bybit also uses. This is kind of like almost a second order book. And yeah, you can basically like segment the flow of like what are the bots versus like what are the real people, and figure out who you're trading on and have almost like different structures for them. But yeah, I agree. I think it's good for retail in that like prices going down drives competition. It's like better experience for end users. At the same time, everyone drives it down to like zero fees. I don't think that's also like super healthy for the long term. we saw this already happen. I feel like in Solana during the bear market, I remember Radium, Orca, and a bunch of others just like raced to like literally zero fees. No one was making any money. Like, I don't know, it was just kind of, I don't think like great for any of the businesses. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think there's still kind of a lot of demand from people to trade on these platforms. And I think everyone will approach it in a different way. Some will work better than others. Some optimize for things differently to others. Like I said, for us, our priority is not just doing the ASTA thing of just like racking up crazy amounts of trading volume. It's providing a real platform with liquid markets that people can trade out in and out of. And if they want to do natural trading volume and not just like farm points, I think that's what they will get rewarded the most for.
And on a bit, I mean, more on the asset type of things, and curious to have your take. I believe you. I've read some stuff. I believe RWA stuff you guys are looking into, or maybe I misread, but this is something we're super focused on at PIF overall with the price feeds of big US stocks, futures, and so on. What's your? I mean, do you think this is something coming quickly on chain? It feels like Hyperliquid with IP3 could go that way. What's your take on RWAs and how I'm gonna long and short Tesla on chain?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, the good thing I can speak to, at least on the technical side, is I don't think the technical difficulty is particularly hard. I think it's typically been more kind of like regulatory thing over the years that you haven't seen this kind of come to light as much, but things seem to be changing on that side of things. It's not something that we have necessarily prioritized or moved towards in the past. But technically, yeah, anything that has like a PIF price feed, that's kind of what I love to tell people. Anything with a PIF price feed, you can like list perpetuals markets on if you wanted to. So that's really cool. I see you guys are like, I remember Mike Cahill's presentation from KBW. It's like you guys are going to have like tens of thousands of like different price feeds for all kinds of different assets. So I think PIF is like really the market leader there and super impressive. Like we will have these like internet capital markets of like everything on chain, I think at some point. So that's very cool. Candidly, like our focus over the next 3 months is like just get to parity with like where everything is at in terms of like crypto asset markets, but then we want to start like pivoting a bit of focus and like looking into more kind of long tail stuff that will be interesting. There's definitely like a lot of demand. We've talked to a lot of liquidity providers who are wanting to do equities and RWAs and like stock indices and all this kind of stuff. Some of the difficulty, I guess, is like traditional markets trade kind of not all market hours. Crypto tends to trade like all market hours. How do you kind of bring those two things together and have consistent liquidity and consistent prices? So maybe you guys are gonna solve that. But yeah, I think it's like pretty green fields there. There's so many different things that can become tokenized and come on chain and have these proper 24/7 digital markets. I think like the sky's really the limit. And then on the collateral side, I'll mention as well, it's cool not just like markets, but like you can bring in different stuff like yield bearing stable coins. Like a lot of these new stable coins are backed by like T-bill yields. So kind of cool. Like even when you're using the Perps platform, your money is just like sitting there in the margin account, like earning in the background, kind of like top dollar yields that you would get elsewhere. I think that's kind of like the nice composable bit of DeFi is like you're starting to accept all these different pieces of collateral. You might be doing a basis trade on Bullet, so you're earning off that. You're like shorting the Perp essentially, and you're earning off that kind of premium there. But then also the collateral that you're using might be like Athena stablecoin, which is also earning a bunch of money in the background. So you're kind of earning from all these different places, and DeFi is just kind of like fit everything together and just try to like maximize returns for people.
It's kind of cool hearing you say that, and then throwing back to 20 minutes ago in the conversation, you learning about the programmable money and the DeFi Legos and everything. That's and we're actually here. It's a verifiable, usable reality for us now, which is kind of insane to think about, because it's one of the first things that really attracted me to the space as well. In terms of, and again, we're probably a bit early on in the piece to be asking this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. In terms of user incentives and programs for Bullet on launch, how are you guys thinking about that? There's obviously no shortage of competitors, and it's a crowded space, and I'm sure you're thinking quite deeply about how you're going to purpose Bullet for that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's pretty important. I mean, the one thing is like I think incentives without a good product kind of don't really go anywhere long term. We're very much focused on, I think, building something that has staying power over the long term. Like we want to take over traditional and centralized markets and like really be competitive there. So like our primary focus has been building like a best in class product, but obviously to get people over the line, like we know with Solana back in the day, Solana was also like a great chain to use, but like not many people actually ended up using it in like the bear market, just because like Ethereum had all the mind share. There was no like switching. There was a bunch of like switching cost, or just like, people didn't really understand what was out there. And thankfully, like, having the right incentives, I guess, with some of these like big Solana protocols back in the day, launching a token and stuff like that, that really did attract a lot of people to the chain. So we understand the power of incentives, and the flywheel, I think, is really compelling on the perp side. This is something that was like done really well, I think, with the Hype token, the way that it was able to take the revenue from the platform, reinvest the vast majority of that into the growth, gets people really aligned. That it's like you have this nice flywheel of, I come in, I trade, I stack up, points, rewards. I hold this token that's actually accruing value because like more of my friends I'm referring in and using it, and you kind of build up this like pretty strong like positive flywheel essentially that's moving in that direction. People feel very aligned with like the long-term future of the platform. So we've been spending a lot of like mental cycles just thinking about how that works, how to really kind of make that work on our side. And like, that's, like I said, our focus is building that flywheel, building those network effects, and really trying to like invest everything that we have into like as rapid a growth as possible. I guess tangibly, we're definitely going to have a points program or rewards program on Go Live. Like I said, since we are doing a gated program, we're going to like drip it out, I guess, slowly to more and more people, just like as a safety thing, but also like let the people who are early, who really kind of backed us in the day, like be the first people on the platform to use it. So I guess the earlier you are to using it, I think the kind of more upside there will be for being an early user of the platform. We really want to reward people who are kind of in our corner and like the first beta testers. I think those are like the most important people. Like I think you can build a really good product with like just 50 or 100 users who are really dedicated. So making it worth their time and making it really worthwhile, I think is really important. So yeah, that's like a big part of our strategy, is build a good platform, reward the people that are early, really focus on that, and then just like use that as a flywheel to like both develop the product as well as kind of build up that kind of value accrual flywheel for the business as well.
I love that. One thing, you're the second person I've heard mention it, and I think it bears repeating for lots of DeFi protocols and people in the spaces. You really do only need 50, 100, 200 users in order to have a product that actually works and can return money to the platform and make it actually usable. It's a lot lower than people think, and I think contrary to a lot of expectations, and just kind of highlights the point. It's really important to focus on your first users really heavily and to help those people out as much as possible. That's great to know. A bit of alpha there for anybody listening in and wants to be an early user.
And I'm feeling good with my Zex bag being staked still.
Perfect.
Well,
yeah, I wrote a blog recently as well. If people want to,
curious to know how it goes. Or is there a migration? What happens with the the Zex token to, I guess, potentially Bullet token coming?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will have a migration that will be announced in like the coming months. Essentially, we just want to get the platform out as soon as possible, but that will be coming soon after. We definitely hear people are like excited to hear more details about it. But yeah, we want to make sure that we do right, and like people who have been like supporting us in the early days get a good share of the new project essentially. So we will be releasing more details and on that essentially.
Amazing.
You mentioned a blog post in passing there, Tristan.
Oh yeah, I wrote a recent blog post. You can check it out on my profile and like under articles. I was just saying, like, feel free to read through it. At the bottom there is like a sign up link. So if people want to be early users, kind of consider for the private beta. We're going to be, I guess, selective on people who have like trading experience or like have like traded a bunch on different perps platforms and like can give a lot of like really pointed user feedback. But yeah, there's a type form there. Feel free to chuck in your details, and we'll be going through this shortly to whitelist people.
Cool. exciting stuff. Pepito, any last questions from you? We're coming up to the hour. I'm conscious of Tristan's time.
No, I don't have any good questions. No, I'm good.
All right, Tristan, we end the Beyond the Price with the same question for all of our guests, which is, if you were starting out today, knowing all that you know, with all the experience that you now have, what is one piece of advice that you would give to yourself or somebody else looking to get into the industry now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think usually what I say to this is like just to believe in yourself. I think it's hard and daunting when you first start out. You think like everyone is so far ahead and everything is like so difficult. But I think you realize over the years, especially in crypto, it's like kind of wild. I think maybe in like traditional software or traditional industries, it takes decades, I think, to get to like the forefront of the industry. But I think it's been really cool in crypto. Like crypto's only been around for, I mean, yeah, probably like a little bit over like 10 years, 10, 15 years. Like not a lot of time in like the grand scheme of things with the world. So, you know, a lot of the people you see up on stage at Token 2049 or other places, like they've been in the industry for like 5 years, like not like a very long time in traditional industries. That's kind of like if you're in like senior level in like a software engineering role or something like that, you know? So it's pretty cool. I think, yeah, for me, just like getting stuck into it, believing in yourself. Likewise, you know, if you think space is really crowded or you don't want to do this because you're worried about X and Y, I think like the thing is that the survival rate, I think in startups and in crypto generally is like pretty low. So I think having that belief that you can do it and you can kind of follow through is really important. And generally, if you kind of can persist like 1 or 2 years into your journey and like really build a company, I think you're going to find yourself so far ahead of the pack. Like people get so distracted with what's happening on crypto Twitter and X and Y and that kind of stuff. And like, you know, you just have to zone in, build what you want to build, obviously be cognizant of the market, but you can kind of find a good group of people, build a really good product, keep heads down, be resilient, like push through. I think you can get quite a long way. And to dial that back even more for people that are in the industry who are like thinking about it. I mean, my journey was like, I was just playing around with it on the side. But you see a lot of people that I think just dabble in crypto. They don't go full time. They don't fully like dedicate to it. And it's hard to build something competitive because the space moves pretty quickly. Like you really need to be quite focused, I think, on what you're doing. And so, yeah, the best thing for me was like, I just decided like, hey, there's a point in my life where I want to like give this a crack, at least do it for a couple of months, see if it works out, like really give it my all. And I think you need to like breach that. You need to go all in pretty much. You know, if you're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, dabbling a little bit, I think it's hard to do great things in the space, and you'll never like fully commit and fully realize, I guess, the potential of what you could do. But once you take that leap of faith, I think there's so many different things to work on that people haven't even like figured out yet, or that need to be done better. Like crypto in general, like there's just so many things I wish that were like improved, and I wish we had like more people in the space building exciting stuff. So yeah, I think it's just like a call for people if they're thinking about it, you know, to give it a go and at least like give it a proper chance, and like, you know, you'll be amazed with how much you can achieve.
Fantastic answer. I love it. Tristan, that's the hour. Thank you very much for your chat. I've learned a lot. There's some very juicy little nuggets of alpha in there for anybody who's been paying attention and following along, for the Pythians and anybody else. Any final words before we wrap things up?
No, I think just looking forward to going live and looking forward to working with you guys. So it should be an exciting rest of the year.
Awesome.
I'm ready.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks
Tristan.
for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Chat soon.
No problem.
Hey, guys.
See you, man.
Bye.
Another good one. And anyone that really wants to dive deeper here, go follow Tristan. And he's done a bunch of interviewed podcasts or even lives talking about this very trading infra and Hyperliquid and competitors. So yeah, he's one of my favorite people to read. And typically he mentioned his article, and he writes quite a bit and well. So I think if anyone's interested in that, in trading and so on, it's a no-brainer to go check it out. That was a great one.
It was a banger. I really enjoyed that. Who we got next week, Pepito?
I'm hoping I have a target. This would be a big one, I think. It's not confirmed, so I will not. I cannot leak this one. I cannot.
Okay. Okay. You keep me waiting. That sounds good. I like it. Being
I
edged.
I have orders from the the sea levels. I cannot be leaking this.
I love it. All right. That sounds
One
good.
thing,
Next time.
one little piece of alpha I can share right now, as Tristan was talking about 24/7 trading of stocks and so on, is I believe we have released a few 24/5 US equities on PIF
Yes.
Core, so PIF on chain. So this is interesting to see. A first step, but I think we have about 20 of them that are live now. So yeah, the Blue Ocean's integration and so on is working very well, and some more exciting products coming.
Yeah. A very, very, very significant true innovation right there, having 24/5 perps available to trade, which is just not available otherwise. Made available because of PIF, which is just really freaking cool.
Excited to see who's going to be first to do those, and we'll keep you updated anyways.
Well, all right.
So,
It's
Pythians,
been good.
thanks a lot for coming and jumping on, and see you next week.
See you all next week. Bye, everyone.